I hope you've had some fun monkeying around with the justify content property and his associated values. I hope you're getting a little bit comfortable with these concepts here. I now want to show you how this would all play out in a vertical scenario rather than a horizontal scenario. So what I'm looking at right now is exactly what we saw at the end of the previous exercise. So I haven't been doing any monkeying around or anything like this. What I'm going to do with my justify content property is I'm going to change his value back to the default, which of course we know is flex start. Okay. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the direction of the main axis. Rather than going horizontally, I'm going to go vertical. We're going to take this layout vertical. There we go, something like this. So flex flow and then column, all right? Go ahead and save up your work and head back to the browser and refresh. There we go, something like this. So flex start is taking all of the child elements, the child flex items, and pushing them all the way to the top of the parent container on the main axis. The main axis goes this way, up and down, right? So the starting point is up here, okay? So we know that flex end would be the opposite. It would gang up all of the child elements down at the bottom of the parent container, right? So let's go and see that. I'm going to head back to my code here. Rather than flex start, I'm going to say flex end, like so, and refresh, and there we go, okay? And just like we saw before, any extra space that's available inside the parent container gets pushed to the opposite side. So flex end, shoving all the child items down towards the bottom. Any extra space sits on top of the child items. Okay? All right. Now, how about our center option? I'm going to say justify content, and then I'm going to say center, like so, and refresh. You can probably guess what's going to happen here. Now we have an equal amount of space above and below. Think about the applications of this. Maybe you have small container boxes inside your layouts that link to articles or products or something like this, and you can very easily control the spacing of any of the child items that you might have in that small layout container, right? So there's start, end, and center. How about space between and space around? Let's see how these guys play out. I'm going to say space hyphen between. There we go, and save this guy up and refresh. There we are. Everything is nicely laid out here, regardless as to the size, or in our case here, the height of the parent container. If the parent container winds up being, oh, I don't know, 500 pixels in height or something like this, everything just automatically adjusts inside the parent container. Let me rephrase that. That was kind of awkwardly phrased. All of the child elements, all the child flex items inside the parent container simply align themselves or space themselves apart, if you want to think of it like that, based on the height of the parent container. Super awesome. So once again, what we're seeing here, if I go and refresh one more time, what we're seeing here is the very first flex item, this is now in a vertical scenario, of course, appears at the top of the parent element. The very last child item appears way down towards the bottom of the parent element, and all the other child elements, doesn't matter how many there are, simply space themselves apart inside the parent container, okay? If you're a Photoshop or Illustrator user like myself, you know all about doing this kind of thing in those applications. You grab your objects, you hit the appropriate align or distribute button inside the align panel, and everything's hunky-dory, right? Just as we're seeing here, except of course now all of this is code-based. All right, we have one more, of course, that is space around. I'm going to say space around here for justify content and refresh this guy. Once again, what we're getting is half the space that appears between all of the child items appearing before the first child item and after the last child item. That's the deal there. So again, it's dependent on the available height that we have to work with here. Okay? So once again, if you want to take a moment and fiddle around with now our justify content property and his associated values in a vertical scenario, go for it.